Findable, accessible are the first two ones. Okay, you must be able to find the data. Yeah, metadata, and you'll see all the way through this data, metadata is absolutely critical to running and using these systems appropriately. So there's a whole series of different principles within there. Findable, you must have unique keywords, you must be able to find the data, you must be able to describe rich metadata, which means half the time is metadata that explains itself. Yeah, because you'll have a nice little library, but what happens in 10 years? Can you remember what a particular word meant? Yeah, don't use codes. Dirk and I have worked with systems for many years where they actually drove the system using 2-letter commands. Great. It was a pain in the neck because nobody really knew what was going on except somebody was running with it all day, every day. You know, if you're looking through a great big handbook trying to work out what was the correct 2-letter command to do some sort of data manipulation, if you've got the same data set in 10 years' time, no one will understand how to reproduce the results when you're demanded to reproduce them. Okay, so everything needs to explain itself, must be very clear. Accessibility, the data must be retrievable using the identifiers, maybe using the metadata you've used to find them. So you must have to be able to recover them from the system. Yeah, and you need to use standardized communication protocols. Yeah, it's no good having a wonderful archive of a system that doesn't work with most web browsers, for example, if you're going to use a browser interface for it. Yeah, so you need to look at the way that the market, the installations that are available are standardizable, that use standardized protocols for doing it. And we have also in the scientific area a great problem because we have some fantastic tools, but a lot of suppliers supply tools which are not standardized with the standard operating systems that are out there, or they use old types of programming languages which steadily are not being allowed to be shown in the browser windows, things like that. So make sure everything's standardized, standardized, standardized. Okay, you need to have the ability to authenticate and authorize the procedures. How are the right people getting access? We'll see that in a minute. Metadata are accessible even when the data is no longer available. I don't like that one. So the accessible to metadata are accessible even when the data is no longer available. For me, coming from an industry perspective, that there was some data that tells me there's some great information there, but unfortunately you can't have the information. I just prefer not to have it. But maybe they have a different, they're coming from a different direction on that. So if we look at the IR, interoperability, metadata uses a formal, accessible, shared and broadly applicable language for knowledge representation. If I'm a particular type of scientist, I speak a particular type of language. My brother, unfortunately, is a very good biochemist. I'm a chemist by training. You know, it's amazing how different our languages are when trying to discuss quite similar topics. Yeah, he regards me as an idiot when it comes to discussing COVID. Yeah, if I'm trying to talk about data archiving, you know, he's working in massive molecules and I'm working in little metabolites. So we have to be able to use and agreed languages, and this is where also the work that we've done over the years with UPAC is so important, because within UPAC, that is the organization for chemists, for example, which controls the terms that you use. And each organization, each area of science or each area of business usually have some sort of mechanism, some sort of international body that will control the language. Because it's all very well using trendy words at the moment, but you need to think about the person who's wanting to look at that record in 10 years time, 15 years time, 50 years time. Yeah, they need to be able to find out what the words are that you're actually using. So use vocabularies that allow for these principles. Include qualified references to other metadata. So go out and basically do your networking. Let's know what the information is. So if we have a particular vocabulary, for example, we're using infrared spectroscopy as an analytical technique, there are specific words used in that domain, okay, which their meaning changes when you move outside of that domain. So make sure you've got good references into the domain specific word naming, or ontologies, as some of the biologists like to name them. Okay, reusable. This is one of the most critical things about when you're talking about data archiving, making data available. Metadata are richly described with a plurality of accurate and irrelevant attributes. Okay, fine. Okay, what I'd like to see more with the reusable thing we'll see in a minute is how you actually get the data out of the archive. You know, good archiving, good storage, good integrated storage systems should make the data available to be used. And the question is at what level and at what time after the data had actually been collected. So this is a fairly important, a fairly critical part to the whole story. And I think you start to see now how the publication, associated data with publications drive through the FAIR community